When rescuers reached the slopes of Kholat Syakhl in late February 1959, they expected to find a lost hiking group, cold, hungry, maybe injured, but alive. Instead, they found a tent, half collapsed, half buried in snow, and slashed open from the inside. Boot prints, barefoot, socked, or wearing a single boot, led away from the camp, descending into the dark forest below. 9 young hikers fled into temperatures cold enough to freeze skin in minutes. None of them survived. The Soviet Union called it a compelling natural force, a phrase that answered nothing. This is the Dyatlov Pass Incident, a real mystery buried in snow, and one the world still struggles to explain. The story begins at the Ural Polytechnic Institute. 9 students and graduates, experienced hikers trained in winter expeditions, embarked on a trek through the northern Ural Mountains in January 1959. They were led by Igor Dyatlov, a disciplined, highly skilled engineering student known for his precision and calm under pressure. With him were Zina, Kolya, Rustam, Ludmila, Yuri, Alexander, and a mysterious last addition, Semyon Zolotaryov, a war veteran whose reasons for joining remain unclear. They were all young, strong, confident. This was a Level 3 expedition, the most difficult the Soviet Union offered. They believed they were ready. No one doubted their skill. No one expected disaster. On February 1st, the group pitched their tent on the eastern side of Kholat Syakhl. The Mansi people had a name for this mountain, the Mountain of the Dead. Whether the hikers knew the meaning is still debated. But that night, as winds rose and temperatures fell below minus 30 degrees Celsius, something happened inside their tent. Something sudden, something terrifying enough that 9 experienced hikers cut their way out and ran into a deadly blizzard without shoes, without coats, and without a single rational decision among them. What they fled from has never been proven. At the edge of a forest line, rescuers found the first 2 bodies, Krivonyshenko and Doroshenko. Both were barefoot, wearing nothing but underwear. Their hands were shredded, as if they had climbed the cedar tree in desperation. The bark bore the marks of frantic movement, up to 5 meters high. Beneath them, remains of a fire that had burned only briefly before dying out. Whatever they saw in the forest forced them upward, seeking height or distance or escape. None came. Between the cedar and the tent, searchers discovered 3 more bodies, Dyatlov, Kolmogorova, and Slobodin. Their positions told a clear story. They were trying to crawl back to the tent, back to shelter, back to warmth, back to survival. Their cause of death, hypothermia. But why leave the tent at all? Why walk a kilometer downhill into darkness only to attempt a desperate return? Investigators found no injuries that explained their panic, except for Slobodin. His skull was fractured, a blow hard enough to stun, but not enough to kill. What struck him, no one knows. Months later, when snow thawed, the last 4 hikers were found deeper in the forest, buried beneath 4 meters of snow, inside a ravine. This is where the case turned from tragic to impossible. The injuries on these 4 made no sense. Thibaut Brignol's skull was crushed. Zolotaryov's ribs were shattered. Dubinina suffered massive internal bleeding. Some had severe chest trauma, described as similar to a car crash. Yet their bodies showed no external bruising, no wounds, no impact marks. Ludmila Dubinina was missing her tongue, eyes, and part of her lips. Not torn violently, not clawed by animals, clean, precise, as if removed after death. Their clothing, too, was strange. Some garments belonged to the hikers found earlier near the cedar. Clothes had been removed, reassigned, repurposed, and traces of radiation were detected on several pieces. The ravine told no single story, only fragments of something violent and unexplained. The Soviet report closed the case with a single phrase: a compelling natural force. But no one accepted that, and the theories began. Avalanche, simple, logical, and immediately contradicted by the untouched tent, still visible after weeks of snowfall. Parachute mines. A shockwave from a Soviet military test could crush ribs without external trauma. It could spark panic, cause fleeing, and explain why the case was quietly buried under classification. Infrasound. Winds carving through the mountain, producing low-frequency vibrations that induce terror, hallucination, irrational behavior. It explains panic, not crushed bones. Chemical exposure. A stove or fuel leaking. No evidence found. Secret weapons testing. Plausible. Soviet silence speaks loudly. Wild animals. No tracks, no tears, no bite marks. Attack by the Mansi tribe. No footprints, no motive. Internal conflict. No defensive wounds, no signs of a struggle. Something in the sky. Witnesses miles away reported glowing spheres in the same week. But if the group saw something, nothing in the official investigation acknowledged it. Modern investigators quietly agree on one chilling possibility. Whatever drove the hikers out of their tent was not the same thing that killed them in the ravine. Evidence suggests they fled the tent in absolute panic. Some ran toward the forest. Some tried returning. The ravine group survived for hours, maybe longer, before something else happened. Two terrors, not one. One inside the tent, and one waiting in the darkness below. That possibility remains the most unsettling. No amount of analysis has ever produced a single theory that explains everything. Not the panic, not the injuries, not the torn tent, not the radiation, not the removal of eyes, tongue, and flesh, not the Soviet silence. 65 years have passed, and the Dyatlov Pass remains exactly what it was on the night they died: silent, merciless, and cold. The hikers saw something that terrified them more than the storm, something strong enough to scatter 9 young adults into the frozen dark. What it was died with them.